So moving forward to today, we have Farm Forward, who's going to present to us about factory farming. So David, how often do you think about where does that juicy piece of steak come from when you go to the restaurant?
Yeah, from a dead cow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think most people think of it that way, as morbid as.
Okay, but on a more serious note, there's a hidden cruelty behind breeding and slaughtering livestock under questionable conditions. And to bring this topic about, we'd like to introduce Farm Forward to the situation. Made up of Judy Van, Sylvia Way, Judy Van, and Danielle Passage.
For those of you meat eaters out there, do you ever think about the impacts your decisions have on the world around you?
These issues include animal cruelty, environmental degradation, and health concerns.
Now, for those of you turning a blind eye to how meat is produced in our society today, here's how.
Oh, and we just want to quickly put a warning out that the footage is really disturbing and graphic and hard to watch, but we also think that it's necessary and important for our presentation. So.
Castrated by workers who cut into their skin and rip out their testicles. Next, the workers chop off their tails. Both of these painful procedures, many animals die from botched mutilations. Piglets who become sick or injured or who are not growing quickly enough are killed. Others are killed by being slammed headfirst into the ground. Prolonged cruelty. Quickly enough to be raised profitably for meat, they are killed within hours after hatching. And acceptable by the egg industry. Induced by overcrowded living conditions, workers use a hot blade or laser to remove part of the chick's beaks. This mutilation can cause both acute and chronic, painfully mangling bird spines in botched attempts to break their necks. Upside down into moving shackles. They are then pulled across a blade which slices their throats, causing blood to pour. Some of the birds who miss the blade have their throats slit or their heads ripped off by a backup. This can have the milk instead. The routine practice is dehorning, burning into the calves' skulls to remove their budding horns. Castration. Cut. And their limbs hacked off while still alive and conscious.
Okay, so we are Team Farm Forward now. My name is Danielle Vasic.
I'm Sylvia Way.
And my name is Judy Van. And our central concern for this group is the extensive effects of factory farming, particularly animal cruelty. But today we will also be touching on other issues such as environmental degradation, health concerns, and unsustainable consumerism to give you a wide array of the issues that are currently in our factory farming system right now.
Okay, so today during our presentation we're going to talk about what factory farming is, the extensive detrimental effects that it has not only on the treatment of animals but also on human health, the environment, sustainability, and how consumerism and the economics in our society is kind of the root of the problem. And also just to talk about the video quickly, that was kind of a wide spectrum, or like we were just showing you all the different animals that were being mistreated, but from now on we're going to be focusing in on Puriton, which is a factory farm specifically that raises and slaughters pigs, and that was found in Manitoba. I don't know if I told you, but we're going to get to that really shortly. And now we'll start by talking about other effects that are less known, that are misrecognized.
Okay, so we'd like to define what factory farming actually is. Some of you guys may be wondering. So factory farming is an industrialized way of farming where hormones, antibiotics, and steroids are used to make the animals grow larger faster, and this creates a higher output, allowing overconsumerism, overconsumption, and overproduction.
So as you saw in the video, that cruel treatments of animals has a common place in factory farming. As the video has portrayed, these methods includes castration, slitting the throats of the animals, hacking their limbs off while they're still fully conscious, workers were caught hitting, kicking, beating, or stabbing the animals who have no way of fighting back.
And we just want to highlight here that farm animals are just as intelligent, curious, and capable of pain and suffering as humans and domestic animals are. And what's interesting is that if anyone were to treat their cat or dog like this, or any degree of that, they would be sent to jail for animal abuse and cruelty. And what we as a team want to address is why is there this difference and why is there this huge divide?
So to address the first problem, I'm going to be talking about the impacts of health. So factory farming, as you can see, there's a lot of health implications on humans who consume these meat. So factory farms, they confine animals in very small cages that are barely bigger than their own body, and this promotes the spread of disease. So to control and to prevent the spread of disease, animal feeds are usually medicated with antibiotics. Growth hormones are also part of their diets to promote growth in order to achieve marketable weight in a short amount of time. For humans who consume these meat, we can develop antibiotic resistance, or children can have developmental impairments. Foodborne pathogens are also a problem in factory farmed meats. As you can see that because disease spreads so easily, there has been a lot of outbreaks of pathogens such as E. coli, or the mad cow disease, the avian flu, or the swine flu. And indirectly, the neighborhood who live around the factory farm is also affected, because factory farms don't treat their manure runoff properly. They leak into the water system and contaminate drinking water for these communities. So people who drink these water are easier to catch foodborne pathogens among other diseases. And this leads into Danielle's topic of environmental impacts of factory farming.
Okay, so on an environmental scale, factory farms are essentially degrading the environment through the use of pesticides, fertilizers, and also our research has shown that they're huge contributors to soil erosion, climate change, water contamination, and air pollution. And actually 20% of human-generated greenhouse gas emissions are actually caused by industrial agriculture practices. And when we're talking about sustainability, there's huge energy losses associated with factory farms because of their water consumption and inquiry for many diverse different resources in order to mass produce meat.
So now we'd like to focus on the economics of factory farming. We know that the economy and factory farming go hand in hand because factory farming overproduces and allows people to buy more and more. And with that, the economy, with more people buying more things, the economy becomes more stable. However, if you look at this from a long-term point of view, there's no way factory farming can keep up with our needs if we keep up overconsumption. With the population growing exponentially, factory farming, there's just no way for it to keep up. So this points to an important note, which is the need to find a new way of farming to replace factory farming.
So far, we have outlined all the problems of factory farming, and now we will approach the solution by tackling a specific farm in Manitoba called the Puriton Farm. It's one of the largest pork suppliers to major corporations such as Walmart, Superstore, or Sobeys. We will explore the solutions from 3 aspects, and this will lead us into fostering a new perspective on the use of factory farming.
Okay, so our solution can kind of be seen divided into 2 separate parts. So part 1 is public awareness, and we'll be achieving this through the use of labels on factory farm meat. We also will be dispersing a TV commercial worldwide. And part 1 ultimately leads to part 2, which is kind of we're attacking the problem more directly. So this will be the actual shutting down of Puriton Factory Farm and simultaneously replacing it with smaller, more sustainable farms in its place.
So now we're going to be going into the detailing of food labeling. Now food labeling will have the process of factory farm meats shown on this food specifically, and this promotes buyer awareness, which we found is really important during our research because a lot of the people, if they're knowledgeable on the subject, they're not necessarily thinking about it when they're making their choices at the grocery store.
So to work in conjunction with the food labeling system, we have developed a TV commercial to educate and to engage audience in the reality behind factory farming. And so I'll show you a preview of our TV commercial right here. So just to add on to what I missed before, that this video was actually taken by an undercover worker in the exact same farm that we are researching about. It's the Puriton factory farm.
Okay, so now we're gonna start discussing part 2, which is more of a societal change, and this is actually this is shutting down Puriton in Manitoba. And by doing so, this is going to disperse a lot of public awareness in neighboring communities, and not only this, we're hoping that this is just a stepping stone, not only creating conscious consumerism to neighboring communities, but also to neighboring provinces and countries. We're really hoping that this is just kind of the first step into something that is bigger and more aware. People are more aware.
To add on to what Danielle said, we're hoping it'll create a ripple effect in neighboring communities, not necessarily to end factory farming as a whole, but maybe to phase it out and to show that smaller farms can sustain a community over one large factory farm promoting such overconsumption.
So since part of our solution is to actually shut down a factory farm, we are aware of the fact that meat is very important in most people's lives. So to accommodate that problem, we will set up 12 smaller pasture farms scattered throughout Manitoba. And these farms, they will produce meat in an environmentally sustainable, healthy, and efficient way. Most importantly, animal cruelty will have a substantial improvement in these farms. And plus, we will also hire vets who will mentor the health of these animals. All the workers who are working in these farms will be trained, and these are all considered in our budget.
Okay, so we also have a petition part of our solution, and we've actually already drafted it. We almost have 100 signatures, and we're really excited about that because it's just kind of pushing our idea forward. So after our presentation, we'd love if everyone could sign it as well. So basically, the way that this works in our solution is in combination with our other public awareness strategies, so the labeling and the TV commercial. This will, we're going to send this to Canadian health and environment officials so that they can kind of solidify our information and validify us as a group, and that when they send it to the local government of Manitoba, which is part of our solution, because they will be the ones actually executing this, the shutdown of Puriton. And the reason that we're kind of focusing a lot on the individual and consumers and having this public awareness be the main drive of what is actually going to shut down the Puriton factory farm is because we believe that this topic, this really big issue, is kind of just boils down to the consumer, because they have so much power, like probably more than they know, that of what they eat, what they buy, and we believe that if we can produce enough awareness and enough influence on what people are buying and eating, and not, anyways, so that will actually turn into the shutdown of Puriton. Sorry.
So now we'll be focusing on our budget. As you can see, most of our budget is directed towards implementing smaller farms, around $9.6 billion of that budget. Now that will go towards buying around 1,200 acres of farmland in Manitoba to replace Puriton, and that will implement around 12 smaller farms to sustain the community. And also this does include wages for the workers working there and also for the veterinarians on site.
So to promote public awareness, we have set aside $5.8 million to lobby representatives from the environmental and health officials of Canada to present our ideas to the local government. And by this way, they can solidify our organization and verify our evidence to do so. Plus, we have set aside another $1.2 million to run the ad on CTV channel for a year.
Okay, and we've also estimated about $500,000 that will be going towards bringing our issue and petition to the government through lobbying. And we also have about $2.9 or $3 million left in our budget, and we will be giving these to the smaller farms as capital investment.
Okay, so I know a lot of you guys may feel so lost in such a huge, important issue, but we want to stress the power of an individual, and that is you as UBC students can get involved and can make a change. I know going into this, I had no idea I had a voice in the community, but working on it, my group, we've actually been contacted by activists for animals at UBC, so we're really excited to work with them, and Judy will outline some of the ways that you guys can get involved.
So I really want to stress that even though the project is over, our running proposal and all these solutions, they're not over yet. And I just want to say that as an individual, you have many ways to get involved in this cause. By coming to our meetings, our potential meetings every Wednesday with activists for animals, and by signing our petition. Plus, I just really want to stress that it is after learning everything that we have presented to you, it is ultimately your choice to make the right decision.
Okay, so now looking back, if we told you that you have the power to change how meat is produced and how animals are treated, if you have the choice, what do you choose? Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.
Would anyone have any questions for Farm Forward?
Oh, I had two. My first one was any of the video footage from the Pure Trunk factory itself?
Yeah, that was our commercial. That was all for.
Okay, and my second question was, has the government done anything at this point? Because for me, that looks like animal cruelty, and that's kind of like, that's something that the government should probably take note of and maybe pursue charges of some sort.
Yeah,
Especially with that sort of evidence from the Pure Trunk
Yeah,
factory.
I'll just take on this question. I feel like through my research, I found a lot of factors pointing towards how consumers are not aware. And with the 2 ads you saw, that was actually taken by undercover workers, so not many people are aware this is going on. And most of the factory farms, they're super secluded and you can't even go in. So I feel like what we're trying to do is trying to spread awareness so this can be taken to the government and something can be done about it.
Okay, wow, yeah, I thought that was like really, really powerful, and like you guys used you guys clearly have like thought it out like really well. I think that where my concern would be is there, have you considered like the possibility that the food corporations might have some power in the government just because like they are multi-billion-dollar corporations, right? And I think, the idea of the food labeling, well, like I think it would be really informative to the consumer. I think it might, I'd be interested to hear what you'd say about it, but like just difficult to get past the fact that these multi-billion-dollar corporations that are already in place might have something to say about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We actually did consider that when kind of devising our plan, but I think that
What I'd like to say is that maybe if we make it really clear that this type of farming, it can't sustain us, because I know I was researching the economy, and if we keep up with factory farming, there's no way we can sustain our population. So even though these multi-billion-dollar businesses are profiting, the power is really in the consumer. And if we all see that there's no way we can keep up this type of farming and this type of consumption, I feel like that would really make a difference.
And just to add on to what Sylvia is saying, that our petition is just a first small step in initiating the snowball effect. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise public awareness right now so everyone knows what's going on, and together we have the power to make a change.
Yeah, I know for myself, if I saw those labels, I wouldn't buy the meat, sure. And it bothers me a great deal that we don't have more labeling on our food, because it disempowers us. It doesn't give us the choice to make a choice. But I'm just wondering if you did any research around labeling of foods, like what happened with how do we manage to get those labels in cigarette packages? The tobacco industry is a very powerful industry, right? And they did. And I mean, it certainly impacts me as a cigarette smoker all my life. Those labels probably were the most effective means of maybe, don't give me that package. You know? But, so did you do any research around the process could you get bylaws, like local municipalities?
We actually did a lot of research on that. That's partly where we got the idea from. So for cigarette packaging, it pretty much went through the same process, except there's multiple steps that has to go through the local municipal government and go to higher levels.
Okay. But could a community, like could a town council say, everybody who's selling meat in this council region has to put a label on it? Like could it be local politics that deal with it, I
I feel like it could, like one of the things we stressed is
The
that.
bylaw.
Yeah, one of the things we stressed was the usage of health officials and environmental officials. I was looking into actually how Australia implemented cigarette packaging, and they went through health officials first and environmental officials, so that really made it more powerful because it brought it home to yourself, whereas like if we were seeing animals treated in this way, like a lot of people would think, how does that affect me directly? So bringing it home to like your own health and the own environment you're living in, that makes it a lot more powerful.
Okay. I actually have a question for this meeting where your labeling is like showing that these meats are factory farmed, but I'm trying to, it's really difficult to get like stores to put that labeling on because it hurts them trying to sell the product. So then in that way, how would you convince like producers or like supermarkets to have that labeling of like this is a factory farmed meat, because this would deter consumers from buying their product?
Well, I think that was kind of similar to another question, just like we're really just going to try to stress how the negative impacts are towards not only like the mistreatment of animals, but also towards like the environment and to our health as a population. And so I think.
Well, I think clearly that's why you have to lobby. It's the government would have to make laws to get the stores to do it, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, it has to go through the government. Yes.
And James?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, was for the TV commercials. Have you looked into any precedents for displaying that kind of graphic material for CTV? Because I've worked personally with CTV before, and there's like a lot of restrictions and requirements for putting any kind of content on there because they are almost entertainment distribution company, right? So.
We actually didn't really look into any. Are you talking about CTV?
Yes,
Oh,
specifically CTV.
no, we
Because that was the
actually
example you
didn't.
gave.
That's a good point though. Yeah.
It might be better to like target local TV instead,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
like more niche TV like,
Okay.
stations, than go straight to national. because
Okay.
There's so much
that's a
more
good
restrictions
point,
that they have. And also I have another question about the actual farms itself. How do you address the economic sustainability of running those 12 farms with all that staff?
Well,
Because that is a lot of professional staff.
yeah, it is a lot of staff.
You know, especially in Canada where they do pay quite a bit.
Yeah. We thought it out, and we know that running 12 smaller farms is going to be a lot more than using machinery and like factory farms. So what we thought was a positive in this aspect, that it is creating a lot more jobs for the community, and that's one positive. But we're just going to have to cut down on our consumption and our needs. So with producing less, you would still create those jobs, but you wouldn't be, I guess, losing as much money if you're spending more money producing the meat, right?
And through our research, we have found that overproducing meat is one of the main reasons for the environmental degradation, health concerns, and every issue that's associated with factory farming. So by cutting down that, we can cut down overproduction, and hopefully everything will be improved by a little.
But the question was economic sustainability. How are the farms going to pay for itself? Are they going to make enough much money, like to pay for all the staff, and are they going to sell enough? Like,
Well, we did incorporate in our budget like having enough money for the workers and stuff, and also we're giving them the $3 million to as a capital investment to kind of get them started. But
Like drawing
but
back.
after that, is it up to them? After they run out of money, is it over? Like, are the farms going to be that?
Yeah, drawing back to what's being sold at the supermarket, if you see the meat being labeled, I feel like that would affect numerous consumers, and they will choose to buy meat that's not factory farm, maybe from local smaller
So
farms.
it's contingent on getting the labels out.
On the consumer.
yeah, and that's what it kind of boils down to, is like the power of the consumer, because if enough people are deciding to buy meat that is more sustainable and environmentally friendly and stuff, we're hoping that that will kind of phase out the factory farm meat and make the more sustainable meat more appealing and making more money for it, I guess.
Okay, good. Thank you, Farm
Thank you
Forward.
so much.